You're listening to the AfterBuzz TV network, now the largest new media platform on the web, and your #1 source for after-show entertainment. From the AfterBuzz Studios in Los Angeles, California, presented by Maria Menounos and streaming live thanks to Akamai Technologies.
This is AfterBuzz TV's Masters of Sex After Show.
We'll break down tonight's episode and get you all the latest news and gossip. And now, another post-game wrap-up show for your favorite TV show.
It's AfterBuzz TV's Masters of Sex After Show.
Misunderstand what we trying to say, you know? But that's a part of life.
What's up, Masters of Sex on AfterBuzz TV? We are back for another episode of one of our favorite TV shows that talks about sex, baby. Brave New World was today's episode, Season 1, Episode 6 for Masters of Sex. And I am your host, Spicy Madi, joined by my fabulous co-host, Jenna.
Hello.
Our sexpert in the house, and Roya.
What up?
We are super excited about today's episode because it's getting better.
Yes.
It's getting racy.
Intense.
The show is starting to actually reveal a little bit more storyline. And so today's episode was nice and juicy. Of course, it was very sexually intense. But I love the fact that we're touching on female orgasms and the different type. I'm sorry, I'm just going to say it. I'm excited that they're like to be a part of the discovery of the various orgasms. So,
It's still a mystery to so many women still. There's so many women out there that I can't tell you how regular that response is. Like, I don't know if I've had an orgasm or not. That is very typical.
that is mind blowing.
Yeah.
And if you guys have experienced this, please tweet at Jenna because she's a sexpert and ask her every single question that you guys want to know about the female orgasm and what you're missing out on. I just put Jenna on the spot right there.
No pun intended.
But I can't even imagine experiencing a life of sex with any partner for that matter and not being able to be pleased and get some type of gratification from it.
That'd be rough.
So I really enjoy Masters of Sex exploring this and making this, less of a taboo topic and coming out and giving the storyline of, Dr. Masters in Virginia. And so let's dig right in and talk about Libby going to Florida with Dr. Masters and that being one of the most awful vacations ever for a couple to go on.
Yeah, Masters just couldn't get out of his work mode no matter what he did. Everything when the old couple were having sex and he was like timing it. Even before he knew that they were an old couple,
Right.
He was watching the clock. He looked at his watch. He just couldn't stop focusing. He wasn't focusing on his wife as he should have been. Poor Libby.
Well, they say that in order to be like an expert at something and in order to really be a master of it, you have to be obsessive. And he's definitely obsessed with his research and his studies.
That explains a lot.
Yeah. But is that a good excuse, though?
No, because his wife really needs him. And we're always really sympathizing with Libby because she gets the grunt end of the stick. Yes, she married a genius and he's a doctor and he's amazing and he's giving back to the world, but she's suffering as a wife.
Yeah. Did you guys catch on in the very beginning when they kept referring to kids and how it was like a ghost and how haunting it was for them? Like when she went over to her neighbor's place, be like, "Hey, can you watch or go check our mail for us?" The baby was crying in the background, and then the neighbor started lactating. And it was just kind of this sensitive subject.
Right.
Such a random, like, leaking nipple.
Yeah.
That really happens when you're pregnant.
It does really happen, but it was just so random.
And it just happened to happen while Libby was right there as a reminder that she is not with child anymore.
And then when they went into the room and they heard the pop goes the weasel, and the children again, they're jumping on the bed, and how they were just like, it was a taboo thing. Like, they were freaked out about it. Or Dr. Masters was trying to protect her from it.
I thought it was funny that they chose Pop Goes the Weasel as the choice of childhood song/shows to make fun of while they're doing it, because Pop Goes the Weasel has like a lot of sexual connotation behind it. Pop, like popping that thing.
Like, what exactly?
Weasel, the weasel.
Yeah, it's
popping the
very
weasel,
creative with the selection for sure.
Okay, maybe I'm the
I
only
just
one
wanna hear you
with a
explain
dirty
it.
mind. But I did sympathize with Libby in that moment, though, because she gets to see or hear another couple having great, amazing sex. And then they find out that this couple is an old couple, that they are in their late 60s, maybe even 70s, still getting their freak on. And she's not being satisfied at all by her husband.
Yeah. I was hoping maybe they kept kind of hinting that maybe when he got into the bed, that she was going to get it, and the beds were pushed together, that maybe,
I was
maybe.
so excited that their beds were next to each other.
Yeah, and then nothing.
Because they
Oh,
could
'cause we thought they were
actually
gonna get their
share
freak
some
on.
Yeah.
intimacy.
Well, didn't you think that it was ironic that this whole episode has been centered around men being unnecessary? They kept saying that this entire episode, men are unnecessary. And we start to see that Libby almost gets empowered by finally telling her husband to go.
Yeah.
And she wasn't meaning it in a sexual way that she didn't need him. But the whole metaphor for this entire episode was that men aren't needed in the bedroom.
Which makes me uncomfortable. I don't like that. I mean, this show definitely ramped up and got very exciting, but I don't like that mentality of we don't need men. It makes me uncomfortable. What did you guys think?
As far as sexually is concerned, of course, this whole episode is centered around the female orgasm without the man, which I think that's very empowering because for the longest, I think women have had a fear of playing with themselves and masturbating. And it's okay for the man to masturbate, but not for the woman. And it's the same thing. If a man masturbates without a partner, he's pleasing himself. What's wrong with a woman being able to please herself and learn her body?
I don't think there's anything wrong with it. It's just that overly feminist approach to we don't need a man. And I think that it is good and empowering because I have been in multiple relationships where I've been starved sexually. And it's debilitating to be with somebody and to sleep and have all of this sexual tension with someone and kind of to be in captivity almost, to not be able to be a sexual being. And I think that going along that way in satisfying yourself is fine and it's an option, but it's not a realistic approach to dealing with your sexuality because so much of what your sexuality is and what your sensuality is skin, touching, human interaction. We are social beings. We are not meant to just take over
intimacy.
We weren't meant to just take over the world and just do everything ourselves, and we don't need help from anyone. I don't think that there's it's a shared experience, and I think that that's really important. So I definitely understand where they were going with this episode, but I'm also very sensitive to the fact that I don't think that sex should be this thing where, oh, well, if you don't want to, I'll just go off and do this, and I'll just be the master of everything.
Well, don't you feel like for that time, this was epic though? This was a time when women were 100% dependent on men, whether it be in the bedroom. They put the man's needs before their own, and for the first time, women can now, or Dr. Masters and Virginia are discovering that women can please themselves physically.
You know what I think is more empowering is to be able to walk away from a situation like that and decide what's best or what's not best for you, and to get into a situation where you are fit sexually with that person. I think that's more of an empowering choice, is making a decision and saying, hey, this is what I need, this is what I'm going after, instead of just saying, oh, I'm not getting this here, oh, well, then I'll just go in the corner and masturbate. And just,
would you agree that on this episode, Libby was doing that?
Yeah,
she was walking away from a
walked away.
situation that was making her unhappy. And I'm more kudos to her.
Question is, will she stick with it, though? Will she stick with it?
Well, we saw some of the previews, and it looks like I honestly didn't think that she was going to come home. I thought that's where it was leading up to. So
I was
it
kind of hoping she'd stay in Florida, to be honest.
So Dr. Masters and Virginia can have crazy wild sex, Roya?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's going to happen. You can't avoid it.
She links up with this old couple that is madly, passionately in love. And she starts lying to them about her life.
I know that was so weird, but then she gets herself in so much trouble.
Do you think it was wrong of her to lie about having kids and then her husband was dead in an airplane crash?
I think she was playing with fantasy a little bit and trying to take herself out of her own life. Sometimes as a coping mechanism, I think a lot of people do that, to heal and deal with the fact that she's not with her husband, and that he would rather be working. So I think that was a defense mechanism for her. But
so were you proud of her for doing that, or were you more like, come on?
No,
like,
I say she's on vacation. She's dealing with this the very best that she can do.
That's her way of
have we
grieving.
ever said anything bad about Libby?
Well, was it what you're saying, that she was living in this fantasy land, or was she really ashamed to tell the couple that she didn't have kids and that she had kicked her husband out of the hotel? I think it could have been ashamed
yeah.
also.
I think it was a coping mechanism to deal with the fact that she was so empty.
Especially when they told her that they met right out of high school and their love story and how it made her so happy. And then when they turned the tables around, like, so what about you? She's like, my life is not that great. What do I do? How do I answer that?
Well, unfortunately, she was a little too nice to this strange couple because they got the wrong impression. I was thinking threesome.
Yeah.
I totally thought that she was going to be surprised by it and then go for it.
I was kind of hoping she would.
I was hoping she would go for it, too.
When she got scared, that scared me. But I was, there was
a
no
little
way.
Overreacting there a little bit.
I would be terrified.
That guy was actually, I don't know if anyone watched Spin City, but that guy was actually the mayor in Spin City. So when I was watching, like, he looks so familiar. And then he talked and he giggled, and I was like, that's him.
Wait, you think she was overreacting? I would have been terrified. You have no idea what I would have been terrified.
Well, she should have known
it was an
what was going on.
older man in her bedroom that was insinuating that they should have sex. I think that she had every right to be fearful, especially since she just met his wife. She thought or assumed that he was in a happy marriage, and he was being overly aggressive and alcohol was involved.
Do you think that she paused at all? I'm trying to remember that part real quick. If she at least gave a little pause about thinking about
I don't think she thought about it at all. I think she was instantly terrified.
Okay.
Yeah, I think she was instantly terrified. And I think, too, that it goes back to the other theme of this episode, looking at the outside, looking into someone's home from the outside. Yeah. And it not being as amazing on the outside as you think that it is. The grass is always greener on the other side. And so Libby saw this couple. She was like, oh, my gosh, they're so in love. It's so amazing. And it just showed that they're not that amazing as she thought. The fact that he would come on to her after he's been happily married for 60 years.
Well, do you think this just kind of came to me right now, a little pun towards Freud, because they kept talking about him and how Libby was talking about, do you really want to, F your father? And this guy is old. Do you think that this is kind of their little stab at Freud's little concept about that? No, you don't think they might have just
because we don't
kind of
know.
I didn't connect that.
No, I just love that right now. I was like, wait a second.
But that would be cool if it did make sense, but I don't connect those dots.
All the way out, I'm just saying, why would
Roya's
they
like,
choose
this is
an
coming
old
to me
couple?
now.
I know. Yeah. I mean,
what do you guys think?
Why an old couple? Like, maybe that was kind of a little step. I don't know. Just
I think that was more to make Libby a little bit, jealous, and
could have been a younger couple though.
To compare her situation. Yeah, but I think that you have more of an admiration and respect for a couple that's made it through the trenches.
Sure.
And Libby and Dr. Masters haven't. And, she's starting to get to a point where she's going to walk away.
For sure. I hope she does walk away soon because he treats her like crap. So.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what her next move is.
Yeah.
But
what I thought was extremely interesting this episode was how you kind of made reference to the female not being in a complacent situation, her not being satisfied with her situation sexually, and her doing something about it. Either she stays or she goes. And in this particular episode, we see Margaret Scully deciding that she's not going to be, I guess, a victim to her lack of sex in the bedroom, and she's going to be more hands-on and take action.
I think that we saw an emotional, I think that, and this happens so much where you're just, there's sexual ebbs and flows that just never get mentioned in a relationship. Two people can be entirely close, but never talk about the fact that we don't have sex anymore.
Right. They sleep in two completely different bedrooms.
Two completely bedrooms at each end of the house, and I don't think that she realized how bad it was until she came to face with it when she realized that she hadn't had an orgasm and had to admit that anonymously, but to people, and say it out, and actually say it out loud. I don't know how much thinking there was done when she made that move with Austin or when he kissed her, but I think it was more her body responding to human touch. And I feel like when you get starved, you'll
devour just about anything.
I know.
Yeah.
I'm speaking
everything starts looking good. Yeah.
Sadly, speaking from experience, I mean, it's a terrible. There's so much I could relate to this episode of being in a situation where you are starved and it puts your mind in a terrible dark place, and it's so sad because you need that human touch.
Well, we see Mrs. Scully. She's depressed. Her body hasn't experienced any pleasure. She's reaching out to Dr. Masters in Virginia now to be a part of this scientific experiment so that she isn't, I think, put in a guilty situation of cheating. It's for science, therefore it's not cheating. And she doesn't understand why her husband's not touching her and he's not affectionate. He's kissing her on the nose. And she too is suffering from his secret of his own personal intimacy issues with the opposite sex.
Yeah. Which, by the way, in that scene, did you notice that we never saw his face and it was always in the dark? Like, only time we saw Barton's face was through the mirror. So it was a very dark kind of theme to
Living
it.
in the shadows.
Exactly. And not letting it be out in the
Kind
open
of like
yet.
in the closet.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it was kind of interesting that
Great
whole take,
point.
you know, it was a long shot for a while behind, like when they're both in the shot, and then it cuts to, you know, back and forth between them. But it was an interesting kind of take on that shot of how they went about it.
What about the dynamics between the prostitute and Dr. Scully? Their exchange that they were sharing, I almost feel as if he was like kind of desiring the love of the male prostitute that he's been sleeping with.
What do you mean? Like
Just because like he wanted validation that he hadn't betrayed him, that he hadn't said anything.
Yeah.
And so was that more because he trusts him, or was it more just because he didn't want his name out there and he was trying to figure out where Dr. Masters got the information from?
That's probably exactly it. And I honestly feel like maybe he's the first prostitute he's ever had, and kind of he's comfortable with it. You know, like the first time, it kind of goes back with the whole virginity. When you lose your virginity, you kind of get hooked with that person.
They were careful to add in the scene, though, that the prostitute said, you didn't seem like a first timer when you came. So that leads me to believe that it wasn't his first time.
But that could be just the prostitute's way of trying to get him off his back.
Yeah.
Like, and because I don't think Barton's gonna say anything, be like, oh no, you're my first, you're the only one. I don't think he's gonna say that because he's still kind of ashamed about his little secret in the closet.
But he even said in the scene, though, that
The prostitute
said that he had other people. He assumes that he had it.
Yeah,
You know, he
it was
kinda
an
did all the
assumption.
talking,
It was
yeah.
it was kind of like a reverse psychology
Yeah.
I
in
don't
order to
think
take
that
the heat off of him. But we don't really know if this was, Dr. Scully's first sexual experience with a man.
We're still trying to learn.
Right.
I think that my prediction, my sense is that things trailed off after, Vivian was born, their daughter, and they pretty much don't have sex at all. It's typical when someone's having an affair for the sex to flatline with the partner. That's why people always say, well, we stopped having sex. Are you having sex with someone else? They do, because there's a different attachment to that situation, and it stops. Sometimes, in rare cases, the sex can really heat up, which I think we might see Dr. Masters and Libby heat up. I think he might get a little aggressive with them, because when there's that new excitement and that wave of, sexual freshness, I guess, that comes home with them for a little while, for a very short time, for maybe like the first month or two. If someone's having an affair, it might heat up, and then it will automatically trail off as the affair goes stronger.
Well, in this particular situation, we see Margaret starting to have an affair, and we already know that Mr. Scully is having an affair, obviously. So I'm wondering what kind of dynamic that's going to put in the household.
All in the same car, by the way.
Right. Great point. I love that.
One in the front, one in the back seat.
You're on a roll today,
This
Roya.
affair is happening all in the same
But
car.
that is a great point. Both of them are sleeping with people who are not their life partner inside of the car.
Car sex, still very prevalent these days.
As much as I don't condone cheating by any means, I am so happy to see Mrs. Scully get some this episode because she deserves it. As a woman, she admitted that she hadn't received an orgasm or never experienced that before. And for him to be able to give that to her, I'm kudos. I'm so happy for her. I'm happy that she went for it.
And the shame that she had to go through to admit that she's never had an orgasm,
scene
and then
in the
walked
elevator.
out and just wanted to break down, and just to have Austin come and just literally bring her back to
Swoop
life.
her off her feet. Yeah.
And for each other to bring them back to life.
Yeah.
She
'Cause
did
he was
something
having
for him
issues
as
too.
well.
It
She
was a shared,
gave him a little
She gave him a part
void
of his
confidence.
sexuality back. Yeah.
Right.
Can I throw another Freud comment in?
Go ahead.
She's his mother, or could be like a mother towards him.
No, I don't think so. I
No.
don't.
No, they made a
Okay.
reference though. Remember
The reason why I'm with you on this one, Roya, is because when he's in the psychiatrist's seat, he says, and I don't fantasize about my mother, by the way, referring to referring
okay,
to Freud's
maybe.
and
theory.
he got it up.
The moment that he's placed with an older woman who could be a mother figure who instills, you know what I tell my daughter, and when she's about to take a test in order to feel
All
better,
right, all right,
she's
I'll
starting
give you
to
that.
give him little, nuggets of knowledge. Now he's feeling himself, he's feeling confident, and he takes her down, and his thing goes up.
Yep.
And so I think
Freudian
that that's a
theme.
great, great, great observation.
Yes, one
Roya.
for one.
I agree
Can't
with
go
that.
wrong with that.
I was like, no.
No, they definitely, everything was tied in and a little bow placed on
Carefully.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, everything went around
Strategically
full circle.
placed.
Yes, exactly. And this episode, we get to also finally see some of the sexual interaction between Virginia and Dr. Masters.
Yes.
They took it
finally.
to the next level.
Okay, I still don't see sexual tension. I don't see it.
I saw at the very end when he turned around and he saw what he was able to get. He had that look in his face, like this is actually gonna like a dream come true for a boy to want to do like their celebrity. I know it's probably a really bad analogy,
I
but still.
feel like that was forced and abrupt. I don't feel like that she
But-
had to do that. I don't know where it came from. I feel like they just needed to insert that in there.
I don't agree with their choice as well, as far as when she decided to take
it
her
wasn't
blouse
even
off.
talked about
Well,
getting a nipple orgasm.
I
was
feel like it was because of the not literally a promotion for her, but the fact that he gave her something and made her
he
feel more like a
validated
person.
her
Yeah.
in her way.
Yeah.
And she's not a secretary. She's not his assistant, or she is his research assistant. But
I feel like there was a building towards this moment, though.
Yeah.
If you go back to when they were in Florida and he gets a phone call from Virginia as far as the research that she discovered, he gets off the phone, he turns to his wife, and he's gleaming,
Yeah.
cheesing smile from,
Cheesing.
cheek
Yeah.
to cheek. He's cheesing.
You see that
and we
smile.
never see Dr. Masters smile. But guess who gave him that pleasure? Virginia.
Yeah.
His own wife can't do that for him. He doesn't have sex with her, but he does get his pleasure, his orgasm almost from his work. So then fast forward, we're starting to see that there's a certain level of respect for Virginia, and that, she has haters obviously at the hospital. What's the name of it? Lillian is one of her hugest haters. She's not a doctor.
Yeah.
But she did correct people when they said that she was a doctor.
Correct.
She did.
She did.
She's so upfront about it. I don't know where Lillian came off with all of that.
Well, it's obviously a jealousy, because the fact that she was referring to Virginia's looks and allure as being why she's getting ahead and
Lillian could
discrediting
use a little bit of a makeover.
But she was discrediting the work that Virginia has done in her contribution
Yeah.
to Dr. Masters' science.
Well,
Yeah.
and Lillian's also got to go through the same thing Dr. Masters went through, but a little bit harder because she's a woman. You know how Dr. Masters was told
Right.
you have to have this picture perfect kind of life to
Right.
be able to get your standings up higher. So maybe that's what Lillian's got to go through in order to receive that. But obviously, she's
mean-
a woman, it's gonna be more difficult.
it was much harder for women to work during that time.
Right.
Yeah.
But
But
Virginia is gaining respect because of the work that she's doing and the time and effort that she's putting in. So I think that he rewarded someone who has been very hardworking and has earned his respect. And I don't think that he rewarded her just because of her beauty.
No, definitely.
I think
not.
that it probably helps with maybe making people feel comfortable, but I don't think it's the reason that he rewarded her. I think he was in a place where he finally was waiting to exhale,
Yeah.
and he was like, you know what, you have earned my respect, because she started doing research on her own while he was gone in Florida.
Yeah.
And I feel like she earned the title that she was receiving. But just like that was an orgasm for him, it was an orgasm for her.
Yeah.
And I feel like she wanted to reward him in a way.
Yeah. I love the scene when she calls him and he's in Florida and he's like, "Are you in my office?" "Yeah." "Are you sitting in my chair?" "No, I'm standing." And she's sitting there in his chair. I thought that was a cute little clever type.
Right, because like a little kid not wanting to get in
Yeah.
trouble.
I felt like that was almost a fantasy for him, the way he said it. In my chair, in
Yeah.
my office, in my chair. I felt like that was I don't think that she construed it as that way, but that's what I was picking up off of that.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I thought it was more of the audacity for you to be in my office in my chair while I'm not there.
But he was still comfortable with it. He wasn't upset
Yeah.
like he has been in the very beginning of the season, where he was like, "What are you doing? How dare you?"
because he got excited. He got
Yeah.
excited about the work that she was
Exactly.
I
doing.
know, she was like, "Are you firing
Yeah.
me again?"
So
their relationship though has definitely grown. Even in this episode, when they're walking to the elevator, did you know she was holding his hat for him before he left? Like kind of like a wifely type of thing. I was waiting for her to put it on his head and be like, "Here you go." You know,
I didn't
have
pick
a
up
great
on
day.
that. Oh,
Like,
okay.
I just thought that was interesting. She didn't have to hold his hat. Sorry, film nerd in me is coming out.
No, but you are bringing up some, you are
You're
bringing
right
up
with
some, you know, cinematic points that we might not have
Sorry.
noticed
You know
otherwise.
what though? I do what I see is the difference between on-screen chemistry and not having that, because I don't see the chemistry between the two actors.
Well,
Do you guys?
I don't see a
Like I'm
lustful nature between them. I don't think that that's how they wind up falling in love. I don't think that it's I think that they're playing it exactly how it happened. I don't think that there is, like you said, sexual tension yet. I think that there's sexual opportunity,
right.
and they're in a place of sex 24/7. And so I think that they become immersed in it and start to fall for each other. I don't think it's gotten to that point
it's a
yet.
shared interest, right? They've got something to kind of, camaraderie. There's camaraderie there because
Right.
they're both very excited. They're both learning something. Relationship statistics indicate that if you're constantly in a state of sharing information with someone and teaching someone, you're both receiving. You're getting something, and your reward circuit pathway is lighting up because you're learning something, and that's exciting, right? And then when you give something to someone, if I teach you about sex, my reward circuit pathway is lighting up too, because I'm so excited to be sharing something to you that you want to know. And so there is this constant exchange between them, because she's teaching him how to be more human and how to get better surveys out of their data, and he's teaching her the science side. So they really are
There's
quite
an
a dynamic
exchange.
duo.
Yeah.
And eventually there'll be an exchange of fluids.
Yeah.
I'm
I'm not excited about
just
that.
joking, you guys, but I do have
It's
to
for
ask.
science. It's for science.
How did you guys feel when she took off her blouse? Appropriate, inappropriate? Did it just discredit
felt
everything she'd
forced.
been working so hard for to gain respect in the science community?
It was weird.
I don't know. I thought
Did you like it?
I did
This is
not
your
think she
team.
should have done that.
I don't think so. I think it was unnecessary. Absolutely. I think they took something away from a really good episode. by doing that.
I have to disagree though. I thought it was a really good way to be dramatic about the whole, like, that was where they ended it with us. And what was her last line? She said, we're scientists. Let's see. Or something like that.
She is a research assistant, let's be clear.
Yeah. But still, it's just, it was a good cliffhanger.
Thank
to end
you,
the episode
Lillian.
on. So.
No, but this is why it didn't make sense for her to want to experiment and see if she can have an orgasm from the nipples, because there's somebody who is capable of doing that, because they openly admitted that they can have an orgasm from nipples. So why not test that patient? Why did Virginia feel like she needed to sit in the chair and be part of the experiment all of a sudden? I just don't think that it was appropriate.
They have a pool of data to test that nipple orgasms on. I don't know what made her feel like she needed to undress and take
Maybe she was turned on at that moment. Maybe she.
I think a little bit of it was
was it riding the excitement of getting his respect.
Yeah.
And, with anybody in power or authority or a superior that's giving you like validation, that if you're under that person, I mean, it is exciting, but keep your shirt on.
Well, now she's got him like thinking about her boobs the rest of the time they work, so that's kind
She's
of
looking
empowering.
for that doctor. She's looking for that doctor title. She's like, if I take my my shirt off, maybe I can be doctor by the end of the night.
No, but honestly, and her boobs were fabulous. It was a great titty
Perfect,
shot,
tiny little
amazing
titty
boobs. They were just phenomenal.
Amazing
okay,
breasts.
but I just felt like it was unnecessary, and it took away from, I think, the professionalism aspect that we've been applauding her for this entire season. And now she's become one of the patients. I think that she lowered herself by doing that and becoming a part of the experiment, because originally when he suggested that they have sex as a part of the experiment, she's like, no, that's not something that I want to do. But now that he gives you a position of power, now you're like, okay, you can use me as a guinea pig.
Well, maybe it sounds better than I'm sleeping with my secretary. I'm sleeping with my research assistant. Maybe that's the title that made her be able to choose to go that way.
They say in the book that people didn't know they were sleeping together for years during the study. So they keep this on the DL.
I'm curious to see his progression of him and his sexuality, because he seems at this point asexual. Other than the fact that people are saying that he likes Virginia, we haven't really seen that. He hasn't done anything. We haven't even seen him masturbate to the thought of her. And so the fact that he's being very impartial, you know, around her, he's not being sexual, he's not being lustful. I'm curious to see how that develops, and they may even get to the point where he's throwing her clothes off and ravishing her, because I just don't see the sexual chemistry between them, like you said. Yeah. So I'm really curious to see how it's going to iron out.
Me too.
I'm team Virginia and Masters, so I'm just waiting. I'm like, it will work. It will work.
I am such a love bug. Like, I can't believe I'm not, but I'm just not impressed with their sexual chemistry. I'm curious to see what everyone else says about their sexual chemistry, because maybe I'm just not seeing it.
Okay, well, it'll be great to get some more perspective. We're going to have one of our hosts that joined us last time, Lim give the male perspective next episode.
Yes.
But let's give some AfterBuzz predictions until then.
And now, your AfterBuzz TV predictions.
So,
what do you think?
I think that we're going to see more of the affair go on, because we saw a little bit in the preview. between Margaret and what's the blonde gentleman? Austin. Yeah, I think that's going to start to get hot and heavy, because now he feels empowered. He got his sexuality back, and he's able to get it back now, and she's feeling like a whole nother woman. And I don't think that she's going to miss, you know, her husband one bit. And I hope that he finds out about her affair.
Yeah,
he's been holding out on her.
Say go. If you're gonna cheat, go. Just go. Don't be a coward.
Jeez, there's a lot of affairs in this. It just dawned on me every single character has
person.
somebody. Like,
only person not cheating is Virginia, because she's not married.
True. That is actually a good point.
And we did get to see that much of this episode of Ethan and Vivian.
Back,
we saw just a little bit of them, a little bit of Vivian talking about Ethan cooking for her. But it looks like they're starting to now play, you know, boyfriend and girlfriend, and get more into their role as, I guess, in this relationship that was forced.
I feel like Masters is definitely going to get his sex on with his wife a lot more, and they're going to actually do it a lot. And I think Libby.
You think Dr. Masters is going to have sex with his wife?
Once him and Virginia start actually doing their experiments and all that stuff, it's going to get him more riled up.
It's going to revitalize his penis.
Exactly. And he's going to go with his wife, and then his wife is going to want a baby, and so the only way they can get a baby is maybe if if Ethan steps in and does a little bit of work for her.
I think Ethan really put his. I think it's going to come out that it was Ethan's semen that impregnated.
Ethan's going to do something very evil. Like, just waiting for that. I'm just waiting for him to snap and do something.
Wait, didn't you guys have some news and gossip for us? There were some reviews about the show that you wanted to talk about.
There was a review. Well, obviously, and someone mentioned this in the comments, that they did get renewed for season 2.
Yay!
Yeah. But on the flip side of that, and I'm curious to see what everyone else thinks, it was, I think, TV Guide, I can't remember the exact, but I'll post it, that had mentioned, okay, there's obviously some very good acting going on in Masters of Sex. We get that. But where is the plot? Like, where is this show going? And so I'm curious to see what everyone else's thoughts are on that, because so far I feel like the comments have been pretty good about the show. From what I can see on Twitter, people really are enjoying it. But I have to agree slightly with the TV comment, in that I do feel like there is some plot missing, but maybe that's our overstimulated, there's always a bank getting robbed, someone's dying. Like, I could use someone robbing a bank at this point. Or
so you need more action,
I need a little bit more direction on where there's no tension building up really anywhere. It's, you know, it's so apparent to the audience that Masters and Virginia are going to end up together, so there's no real tension there. We know it's going to happen. It's a matter of how many awkward transactions they're going to have until it happens.
When can they get caught?
Yeah. And then Scully, do we really care? Are we emotionally attached to his wife cheating? Not really, because he's gay and he's, you know, prostituting it up, which is fine. But there's not real, like, God, I wonder what's going to happen next week. You know, there's not that sense of, you know.
I think that this is my guess, but I feel like as if the other storylines is what is going to start to overpower the show. because Dr. Masters and Virginia can only give us so much tension between them, so much scientific research. I mean, I really do feel like I'm learning a lot about human anatomy while I'm watching this show, so I think that's one great thing. But I think that they're starting to get a little bit more juicier, and that's why we start to see all these affairs unravel and kind of sexuality being the compass for this entire show. But how much can it be, based on sex, and how many affairs can we have? So who really is the antagonist on the show? There isn't really one.
Yeah.
Ethan.
And so I think they're gonna, but he's not even that bad. He's lovable.
Yeah.
So I think they're really gonna have to either incorporate someone or start to, make that a part of the show for us to really continue on with another season.
Yeah.
I just feel like they had so many characters that they had to do a lot of character development in the whole storyline.
Yeah, exactly.
So maybe now they're at a point where, okay, who all these characters are. Now let's make something happen.
I'm enjoying it. I feel like it's starting to get juicy, but I think it started me so low in the beginning that anything now I'm like jumping on and it's a climax.
I'm taking it.
Yeah, like Barton, did you see the little preview real quick where he was in the car with his prostitute and they pull him out? So there's a preview of him getting caught. So it's going to get very, very
that's
emotional
good.
soon.
Next week.
Ooh, well, there you guys have it. Please tune in next week with us. We'll have the male perspective, Lem, back in here with us. But tune in every Sunday at 8 o'clock here on AfterBuzz TV. And once again, I'm your host, Spicy Madi. You guys can play with my Twitter or stroke my Instagram at spicy_Madi. And where can they find you, Jenna?
I'm at Jenna Time Tweets.
And I'm at Hey Roya, and I'm also on Instagram at Hey Roya as well.
Great. And you guys also, I'm plugging this because Phil reminded me, make sure that you tune in every Friday at 4:30. I do a show called Love on Top, which I'm dealing with sex, relationships, and all that good stuff as far as Hollywood's concerned and with Black Hollywood. So Love on Top, 4:30 p.m. on Black Hollywood
I like
Live.
that. Love on top.
Yeah, there's nothing better than being on top.
There really isn't.
Thanks, guys, for tuning in.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.